Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a different kind of video that I've almost never made. I think I've made some sort of talking videos, but I've never really had a discussion about a book. So I finished Thrawn Ascendancy Chaos Rising, and it's a phenomenal book, and I want to talk about it. So Thrawn is my favorite character ever since I read the first novel from Timothy Zahn in canon. I've read all canon Thrawn novels, but not Legends. I've heard Legends is really good, but I just cannot get into the Thrawn Legends. I don't know why. Maybe someday I will, but for now, I know everything about the canon, and Thrawn is my new favorite character. Timothy Zahn is a legend. So this book is a prequel book, and I've actually recorded another video before this, where I was just rambling about this. I didn't know what to script anything, but now I have some pointers here, because I talked about everything, and it was all over the place. I need some sort of structure for people who don't know this book, so I've written down a few pointers, and by eventually I'll just ramble. That's just how I. So I want to give a quick summary of what the book is about. So this is of course a book about Thrawn, but it's a prequel. So this takes place before the first Thrawn novel, so before the Empire basically, and this takes place in the unknown regions. The unknown regions of space, which is basically being talked about a lot right now in the canon. For the people in the unknown regions, it's not called the unknown regions because they know it. It's not unknown for them. They call it the Chaos. And it's such a sick and badass name, man, bro. Imagine say, hey, I'm from the Chaos. But so what's the book about? A real quick summary. So the book is basically about life in the Chaos, the Chiss Ascendancy, where Thrawn is from, is his people, it's his home. And the Chiss Ascendancy was attacked. The Chiss Ascendancy have some good rules. They basically don't attack anyone unless they are attacked first. And they were attacked, but they were attacked in a pretty smart way. They had no clue who the attacker was. Of course, Thrawn figured it out, but he had a hard time convincing people because he is absolutely trash when it comes to politics. Absolutely trash, but I will talk about that later. So basically, Thrawn and Admiral Arlot, I cannot pronounce that name. Okay, Admiral Arlani. It's just the stupid Dutch in me, man. Okay, Admiral Arlani. I need to be okay. So Thrawn and Admiral Arlani, they basically team up. They work together, and they try to prove that who the attackers are, and eventually we'll discover it's the Nicardoon. Nicardoon is like a shadow organization, if you like, a shadow people. They try to ally themselves or like conquer, take over systems around the Chiss. So they basically surround the Chiss Ascendancy because the Chiss are the best warriors in the Chaos. Everyone's afraid of them. Everyone's afraid of them, and the neighbors are afraid of them. The Nicardoon wants to take them on, but they have no chance unless they basically surround them and they control everything around them. And Thrawn foresees this. He knows this. He sees in the patterns and stuff. He sees the strategy in this. He thinks it's brilliant, but he needs to stop this for his own people. Thrawn's whole life basically is all about the Chiss. Even in the Empire, he didn't join the Empire to screw up some rebels and Empire. No, he wants the Empire as an ally to defend the Chiss. But that's a little later. We're now in the prequel. But in this book, he's looking for allies. But basically, he's trying to stop. He's trying to prove this attack. He's trying to maneuver his way through the military stuff, while his allies, General Parkeef, Arlani, they try to move him into politics. They're trying to figure it out in the political way, and they basically clash. Like, Thrawn is not popular at all. Like, people hate him. And there are people who see his potential, and there are people who know, hey, he is important for us. There are people who think he is reckless and he will be the downfall of the Chiss. And a lot of them are in their own families. So that's what the book is about. They're basically trying to prove this attack. They're trying to stop this little, encirclement that's happening. And eventually they do. Eventually they figure out who the big bad guy is. The leader of the Nicardoon is General Yif the Benevolent. They are trying to stop him. Yif is basically the first adversary of Thrawn. He is smart, tactical wise, but there's one edge that he has over Thrawn. That's his political side. He has charisma and he knows how to talk. He knows how to talk and maneuver his way in the political side. Thrawn has no clue about politics, but I'll come back to that later. Thrawn, in the other case, he outsmarts him in military side. Because Yif is a very good military strategist, but Thrawn is just better. So they clash, they're trying to get each other in basically, and they're trying to get each other in their own fronts. Eventually Thrawn figures out how to defeat Yif in military, because they know they can win from them. They have better equipment, better strategies, they have better everything, but they cannot attack because of their rule. They had to prove that they were actually attacked by the Nicardoon or Yif, and they had to prove that they are not doing a war crime for them. They basically want to attack, but they need to prove, hey, we are attacked first, and then they have full authorization to attack them and actually just annihilate them. So it's a very, very, it's an unusual story for Star Wars. Like, we know about the Republic, separatists and stuff, they can just attack whatever they want. They don't care, especially the Jedi, they don't care. But we know what happened to them. There's a lot of stuff we learn in this book, like the Chiss Ascendancy is basically ruled by 9 families. One of them is the Myth, and the Myth is of course where Thrawn is from. Thrawn's full name is Mithron Yorodo. Myth is of course in there. They have like weird names. They have like a front name, middle name, and something at the end. And Thrawn always goes by his middle name for, to make things simpler. So yeah, let's segue to Thrawn, actually talking about him. So I've mentioned a lot of times that Thrawn is basically absolutely dumb in politics. He has no clue what to do with it. And I love how they acknowledge it. People know that he has a weakness for it. The Myth head family, the guy who's the head of the family, he basically arranged that Thrawn was even in the family. He saw his potential. He knows, he put a prediction. He will be the guy who will either be the salvation of the Chiss or the absolute destruction. But Thrawn is in the middle of that. He is basically so important. He will either bring absolute destruction or absolute victory to the Chiss. And that's what I said his whole life, Thrawn's whole life. He doesn't know about him. For now, in this book, only Thalius knows. I'll come back to her later. But at this moment, Thrawn doesn't know about it. But we know, because we read, of course, we know what he's done in Star Wars Rebels, the Empire and everything. The only reason he joined the Empire is to be allies with them, for the Chiss Ascendancy. But yeah, Thrawn's absolutely dumb with politics. He tried to understand it. He basically told to Admiral Arlani, hey, politics is basically just strategies. It's talking, it's strategy. I can do it. I can do this. But I love this quote from Arlani. She basically said to herself how some people can be tone deaf. There's nothing that they can do about it. They're just tone deaf. That's Thrawn with politics. He is tone deaf to politics. He has no clue whatsoever. He just cannot fathom it. He cannot fathom it. No matter how hard he tries, how much he studies it, which he did. He did study it. He just cannot get a grip on it. He doesn't understand. And it has been told in the book that Thrawn basically said, listen, in military stuff, in military matters, a lot of things change. Like alliances change, because Arlani basically told Thrawn, like, alliances change non-stop, you need to keep track. And Thrawn said, hey, that happens in military matters as well. But Arlani said, hey, listen, in military matters, it's because of the politics, you can see how it happens, and in actual military stuff it takes a long time to move troops, to move ships. You have enough time to prepare yourself and think of counters and keep a track of it. In politics you just move fast, like one 30-minute conversation behind the screen, behind closed doors, and boom, an alliance is over. It's changed and you have no clue about it unless you pay attention to unless you just can be. You have to have the talent for it, and he has no talent for politics. So I just love it because in of course the Empire days, he also has no clue about politics, but he has Admiral Yularen, or now Colonel Yularen, who basically handles the political stuff for Thrawn and gets him out of jail card. He's basically his out of jail card for him in the Empire. And here it's basically Arlani, it's General Bakif, and later on Thalius, and they're trying to help him out through the politics while he is carrying on the military side. So I love that about his character. I love that we have a background for him, and I love how Thrawn is shown to be a good guy. He's not a villain. Like, yes, he is a good guy. He has morals, but he's also a military strategist. Like, there's nothing more he loves than the Chiss and his people. And he told himself, everyone outside of the Chiss, he doesn't see them as people. And he is saddened that he realized he's saddened that he thinks of people. He thinks of people outside the Chiss as assets. He doesn't see him as people, he sees them as assets. And he's saddened by that fact. Because Arlani's told Thrawn, I used to think back in the day before I joined the military and went outside in the chaos, I thought they were animals. People outside of the Chiss, like very intelligent animals. Like, some are dangerous, some are neutral, some are cute. But Now she sees them as people, and that helped him. That helped him in the final battle, because something that Thrawn missed while studying the history is he forgot about them being a people and stuff. And Arlani figured something out in looking into the history of the occupied planet later on, and I forgot the name for it, so I'm sorry. But but yeah, that basically shows that Thrawn is not perfect. And I love that. But yeah, Thrawn is a good guy, but he sees people outside the Chiss as assets. And that basically explains how he can be good, He doesn't mindlessly kill people, he doesn't, But if there's the best strategic way for victory for the Chiss, and there's absolutely no more option left, he will not hesitate to, do something that might be morally incorrect, but he likes to just save his own people. But what we also learn in this book is basically about Skywalkers and how people travel through the unknown regions or chaos. This has been talked about in Thrawn Alliances in the Empire days. It has been talked about there, how Thrawn basically told Darth Vader, we have Force sensitive people in our in the Chiss, and we call them Skywalkers. Of course, Anakin Skywalker, Darth Vader, he was like, "Are you screwing with me? What's this? What do you know?" And it's true, because they are called Skywalkers for generations. Skywalkers are Force sensitive people in the Chiss who navigate for them. So basically, the chaos is this. It's unknown. It's literally chaos. Like, in normal space, what we know, in Coruscant stuff, you can just hyperspace anywhere and it's safe. But in the chaos, there's so many moving objects that if you hyperspace, eventually you'll crash into an asteroid and die. Or whatever, something will block it. Like, you go into a nebula, it's ever moving. There's no strict path that's there forever. It changes. So basically, Force sensitives in that region have to travel for them. And there are, every planet, every system calls the Force differently. Like, the Chiss, the Skywalkers, they call it Third Sight. The Navigator Guild, they call it the Great Presence. And they all just tap into the Force to see what's ahead of them. And they basically tell the ship, okay, stop now. They stop, go out of hyperspace, they change direction, and they go to hyperspace again, jump by jump, basically. And so we met two Skywalkers in this book, Chewie and Thalius. Thalius is a Skywalker in the past. So this book, Timothy Zahn, he writes in the present and the past. In the past, he looks through memories of people. Like, some chapters are called memories, and they are basically like flashbacks. So back in the day when Thrawn just started, Thalius was a Skywalker, and Skywalkers are basically the navigation stuff, but they are young. They lose the Force after age 13, if I remember correctly. So after they're 18 years, after they're 13. After they're 13 years old, they lose the Force, they lose Third Sight, and they are no more, there's no value to them anymore, to the military. Thalius basically met Thrawn, and Thrawn helped her figure out what to do after she was a Skywalker. He gave her a path, and Thalius was thankful, wanted to meet Thrawn again, and basically work for him. So Thalius found a way on ship by doing a deal with a family member from a different family than a myth. It's a lot in depth in there, but I just try to oversimplify this. She basically agreed to spy on Thrawn, and then the family member would get her on board. And it's not from the myth, it's from another family. So let's just say a family rival, if you will, managed to get her under Thrawn's command. She had to spy for him, but she didn't exactly. She stayed loyal to Thrawn in the end. But yeah, she just wanted to meet Thrawn, and the only way she could be on the ship is she was a caretaker. She was a mommy, a caretaker. Because, Skywalkers are young. They're like 9 years old, 10 years old. They need a mother figure, if you will. They need someone to take care of them, to comfort them and everything. So Thalius came on board as a caretaker for the Skywalker of the current, for the current one for the ship, and that's Chewie. And that's Chewie. Chewie is now the Skywalker, and they bonded really well because Thalius was, of course, a Skywalker as well. It was very uncommon that Skywalkers would be caretakers. Very uncommon. And it's cool. Thalius knew exactly what Chewie was going through. They had nightmares and stuff, and it's purely based on the Force and stuff, and basically being afraid. And yeah, it was really awesome. The dynamic was awesome. Chewie is my favorite character when it comes to being a child character in Star Wars. First it was Omega from Bad Batch, but then Chewie took the cake, man. Holy. Timothy Zahn did it absolutely perfect. A good character. She grew, and after her one time with Thrawn, because Thrawn wanted to go to the lesser known galaxy, which is our galaxy, where, you know, basically where the outer rim is, the inner rim, you know, Coruscant, you know, our galaxy. After a plan that Thrawn had to go to the known galaxy, which they call lesser space, Chewie was the only one able to accompany Thrawn on this secret mission, because Thrawn wanted to gather allies, and from the very beginning, like, Thrawn wants to have allies to fight this Nick Ardoon or other threats that Jizz face. And they knew about the Republic and the Separatist war. Very, very little, but they knew there was something happening in lesser space. So the original plan was for Thrawn, Thalius, and Chewie to all three of them go on a small ship and go to lesser space to figure out to find some allies. But Thalius basically couldn't, because this is like near the end of the book. Thalius had to report to that rival family member on what she saw in Thrawn, like you know, report back, because she had to spy, and she had to go through a whole adventure to basically avoid this, you know, avoid snitching on Thrawn. But Thrawn had to hurry, so Thrawn took Chewie alone, and they went without Thalius. And this was my favorite moment of, like, Thrawn's character. Thrawn helped Chewie. Chewie, like I said, Skywalkers, they have nightmares, they're really afraid. There's so much burden on them, because they have such a huge responsibility. The whole crew's life of every ship they basically navigate, their lives are in the hands of Skywalkers. If they fail, everyone's dead. And you know how that sort of burden for a 9-year-old without Jedi training, yikes. So she has nightmares, she's afraid, and Thrawn knew about, he didn't know about the Force stuff, but he knew about, you know, being afraid. Thrawn is a guy who studies things through art, and Chewie loves to draw. I had to see this from the beginning, because she was drawing in the very beginning. She likes drawing. Thalius liked reading when she was younger. That's one thing they couldn't connect on, because Chewie was like drawing and stuff. But I was like, I never thought of it, like, oh, this is how Thrawn's gonna know her, because he studies art. Like, even a child's drawing is art. Like, people express themselves through drawings and stuff. So Thrawn said, I've seen your drawings, and you draw about flying. You like flying. You draw things on an aerial view. You draw birds and stuff. You want to be a pilot later, and she wants to be a pilot. But she has bad dreams about flying because she doesn't know how to. And that's something we all have. When I was younger, not even that young, like a few years ago, when I was 14, 15, I had some pretty bad dreams about driving. And when I didn't really have nightmares per se, but every time I dreamt about driving, I crashed. Because I didn't know how to drive. Now I have my license, and now I don't have those bad dreams anymore. Like, yeah, I can drive now. Cool. And that's something that I relate to with Chewie, because that's something I don't know if everyone has that, but that's so awesome, and I could relate to that. And Thrawn basically taught a 9-year-old how to fly a ship. Like, you know, go fly. This is how you do it. He like gave her lessons and stuff, and she was a quick learner. She learned how to fly in like 3 weeks. And it was like, I'm like oversimplifying stuff, but Thrawn is an excellent teacher, and she had a talent for it, because she's been around ships for the whole life. She knows basically everything, because she hears so much about like ship terminology and everything, and she learned pretty quick. And they went to lesser space and they met Anakin Skywalker. So how did they met Anakin Skywalker? Because this part, Chewie was to stay in the ship and Thrawn helped Anakin. This was from Thrawn Alliances. So we took a long break, like I think 2 to 3 chapters or something, like one long chapter. We focused on Thalius, because in that time Thrawn was, you know, doing stuff with Anakin that we see in Thrawn Alliances. So that's really cool. And they talked about, you know, Skywalker being Skywalker. That's weird. Like, is that a name? Is it common that people call Skywalkers there? Do they know about us? Do they know about our Skywalker? They were so confused, and I loved it. It was so funny. But no, yeah. So Yif, the malevolent or whatever he was called, benevolent. He was the main bad guy. He at the end got defeated by Thrawn. Thrawn had an excellent strategy, an excellent way of, you know, defeating him, but basically letting the Nicardoon fire on this neutral planet. Well, there was this planet whose name I forgot in the end. This planet was basically being conquered by the Nicardoon in political ways and stuff. Like, they had no clue what was happening. Like, what Yif's strategy is this is the planet. He's like, with his fist going here, he's talking to them, making friends and everything until he's in a good enough position, and then he grabs him with military might and everything, and then boom, you are now fighting for the Nicardoon. You are now conquered. So he was already doing this, but they didn't see it. You know, these people didn't see it. Thrawn basically tried to explain it to him, but they did not like Thrawn at all, the people of this planet. So Thrawn admitted this wasn't part of his plan, because he didn't come up with this himself. It was part of the plan, but he didn't come up with this. Admiral Ar'alani did. She basically told the crew of the Springhawk when Thrawn was on his own, confronting Yif on the other side of the battle. They had no clue where he was, and there was like a battle happening here in front of the planet. And basically, Ar'alani had the plan of, okay, the Springhawk is this ship. You're gonna act like, you know, turn off all your power systems. They turned off their power systems. They're floating through the air, and they were basically. Then Ar'alani made contact with the planet to say, hey, listen, we have some people, you know, down there. People are injured. They need humanitarian. I cannot speak English, man. They need aid. They need first aid. You know, help them. And they are people of honor. They were like, okay, we will help. Like, they didn't want to, but they had to. So they sent a few ships. Ar'alani in an open frequency told the Nicardoon, hey, listen, these people are neutral. They're gonna, you know, provide some first aid and stuff. Don't shoot at them. They are innocent. They are neutral. And the Nicardoon, which, you know, the whole plan from Thrawn was to keep Yif occupied. Because if Yif was here, he would tell the Nicardoon people, hey, listen, don't fire on them, because then we are gonna lose political stuff. He was busy with Thrawn. He didn't even pay attention to the battle. So the Nicardoon ship, who did not have any input from Yif, basically took it upon themselves, and they were like beast animals, if you will. So they just fired on them. They just, okay, ships there, dead. And they basically fired upon an unarmed neutral country, I want to say neutral planet. So they joined the war now, and they had way more ships, because the Chiss were only allowed to send 2 ships. And then it was over for Nicardoon. That was over. That was like the political play. That was so smart. And I'm like oversimplifying it again, because I don't want to talk for too much. I'm already talking for 25 minutes here. Holy. But it was an incredible play. And here's basically where I see that Thrawn was doing something evil. Not really evil, but like ruthless. Because he came on board the bridge. It was like also another plan. Like Phalis and Cherry were captured on that bridge, but they like took off a little bit their makeup, you know, and it like in the makeup there was like thick makeup, you know how it is. They had like gas that would like incapacitate people, like make them high and everything, and just not able to think straight and be, you know, including themselves, by the way. So Thrawn came on board on his own. They were all like knocked out, and he basically came on board through a modified ship. He basically breached through the window and made sure it was a vacuum sealed until he left. Then there was a huge, you know, gap where if he left, everyone would have been sucked into space. So he took Yif as a prisoner, and then Thalia said, hey, these crew, if we leave, they're gonna die. And Thrawn gave this chilling line where he said, like Yif said, no witnesses. Like, that's something that Yif told Thrawn in the beginning, like, you know, we're out here all alone, no witnesses. And that was chilling, and I was so sick. But that was an evil act, if you will. Like, he could have saved the crew, but again, these were enemies. He captured Yif alive, and the Nicardoon are basically no more a threat. But then someone in the end, which I think is the Grisk, they were basically the bigger bad guys, and they were like observing everything. And I think it's the Grisks from like the previous books who are like the Yuzong Fong of the canon. If you don't know, the Yuzong Fong is like this in Legends they were this huge alien race who almost conquered the entire planet, entire galaxy, everything. Luke Skywalker and stuff had to fight them, and it was incredible. And I think the Grisks are that threat because Timothy Zahn was trying to write them back into canon, but sequels ruined it, of course. But who knows? Maybe before the sequels they can have this huge war. I don't know, because they said they lived in 30 years peace. I don't know what they're gonna do, honestly, man. It would have been sick if we had another Yuzong Fong thing, but in canon. But yeah, anyway, I just wanted to talk. I love this book. I might have to like script this sort of stuff. Who knows? I might need to like script stuff. I hope for the people who didn't read the book, you understand what I'm talking about. Do you enjoy this stuff? I mean, I'm gonna begin the second book. This is a trilogy book, and the next one's coming out in November of this year. I'm gonna begin the second book right now, and if I'm done reading it, I don't mind like talking about it. Like maybe put a small summary and talking about stuff that happened there. But yeah, let me know. Anyway, I love the book. Let me know if you've read the book. Let me know what you think about it, and yeah, that's it. Take care.